Hey, Tim Frisch with a Frisch Perspective. So today I woke up and I was online and I noticed a lot of hubbub about an article that has to do with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. And I'll tell you, I haven't gotten into the issue of Donald Trump on my channel yet, but I thought it would be interesting to talk about this. Specifically because there's an article that has come out from Christianity Today, and it's titled Trump Should Be Removed from Office, written by editor-in-chief Mark Galli. Before I read this article and talk about it, I just want to make a comment about my own personal viewpoint. First of all, I think it's very complicated. I think that people want things to be simple. They want either Trump to be someone you can hate and who's evil in every way, or they want Trump to be, almost I think how he said it, the Messiah. And that's a problem in both ways. I think there's much more to it than that. And I personally do understand why a lot of Christians, evangelical Christians, have supported Trump, especially over what the opposition is offering politically. They have such a problem with what Democrats stand for, believe in, and what they're trying to do politically, that they feel Trump is a better option. Also, Trump has done a lot of things for evangelical Christians and their prerogative, what they'd like to see happen in this country. And so I understand why Christians have been supportive of Trump. Personally, though, I've always been very hesitant, and full disclosure, I had such a hard time with the decision back in 2016 that I didn't personally vote for either major party. I voted third party. So that kind of tells you where I'm coming from on this. That being said, when I read an article like this, Trump should be removed from office, I kind of have some reactions to it. So let me read some of the article here, and then I'd like to just give a few points that come to my mind as I think about this. So it says, in our founding documents, Billy Graham explains that Christianity Today will help evangelical Christians interpret the news in a manner that reflects their faith. The impeachment of Donald Trump is a significant event in the story of our republic. It requires comment. The typical CT approach is to stay above the fray and allow Christians with different political convictions to make their arguments in the public square, to encourage all to pursue justice according to their convictions, and treat their political opposition as charitably as possible. So I like that. I think what he's saying there is actually a good policy for a magazine like this. He goes on, we want to CT, Christianity Today, to be a place that welcomes Christians from across the political spectrum and reminds everyone that politics is not the end and purpose of our being. We take pride in the fact, for instance, that politics does not dominate our homepage. That said, we do feel it necessary from time to time to make our opinions on political matters clear. Always, as Graham, and that's Billy Graham he's referring to, encouraged us, doing so with both conviction and love. We love and pray for our president as we love and pray for leaders as well as ordinary citizens on both sides of the political aisle. So that is very good. The beginning of this article, I think, says some really good things there. And I like their charitable approach. That's actually an approach I personally agree with. Then he goes on, let's grant this to the president. The Democrats have had it out for him from day one, and therefore nearly everything they do is under a cloud of partisan suspicion. This has led many to suspect not only motives but facts in these recent impeachment hearings. And no, Mr. Trump did not have a serious opportunity to offer his side of the story in the House hearings on impeachment. But the facts in this instance are unambiguous. The President of the United States attempted to use his political power to coerce a foreign leader to harass and discredit one of the president's political opponents. That is not only a violation of the Constitution, more importantly, it is profoundly immoral. So I think really on that basis, Mark Galli of Christianity Today is saying That's it. Those are the facts, that Trump has done something immoral, and therefore he should be removed from office, and it was right for him to be impeached and held to these charges. So my reactions to this are threefold. I have three things that I thought I really wanted to say, and the first has to do with something they admitted, that Trump really didn't have the opportunity to give his side. The White House didn't have the opportunity to present their case in the impeachment in the House. And so the first thing is that I think there's really an issue of whether this process is even fair. And, while I understand where Mark Galli is coming from in this article, and I understand why, maybe there is a case to really, bring a charge against the president, you have to be fair in the way that you do that. I mean, that is the way our political process works. Certainly as Christians, it's the way we should operate. We should hear both sides of a matter. But in our country, the belief that we have is that you're innocent until proven guilty. And in order for that to happen, there has to be a fair process. Everybody is afforded the right to defend themselves. So regardless of what anybody thinks politically, that has been a problem with this whole process, is that it hasn't been done in a two-sided, fair way. At least not to my knowledge, it hasn't. The second thing has to do with when they're bringing this up about Trump and the timing of this. And so I want to get to the end of the article here and read something really interesting. He does say in this article, by the way, that the things that we held President Clinton to during his impeachment and the moral grounds of our position as Christians should be applied to President Trump. And that makes a lot of sense. Whether, though, these are the same situations, that's another matter. But anyway, he says at the end of the article, "We've reserved judgment on Mr. Trump for years now. Some have criticized us for our reserve. But when it comes to condemning the behavior of another, patient charity must come first. So we have done our best to give evangelical Trump supporters their due, to try to understand their point of view, to see the prudential nature of so many political decisions they have made regarding Mr. Trump. To use an old cliche, it's time to call a spade, to say that no matter how many hands we win in this political poker game, we are playing with a stacked deck of gross immorality and ethical incompetence. And just when we think it's time to push all our chips to the center of the table, that's when the whole game will come crashing down. It will crash down on the reputation of evangelical religion and on the world's understanding of the gospel. And it will come crashing down on a nation of men and women whose welfare is also our concern." So, I mean, that's pretty strong rhetoric he's using at the end of the article. But what I wanted to point out is that he admits they haven't really spoken about the issue. And he kind of makes it sound like, well, we wanted to be charitable and really see, how things played out. And it's like, really what's happening now is nothing new. And I really don't get it. I don't understand what has Trump done that's any different than what he's done in the past. I told you at the beginning, I personally had reservations, such serious reservations that I didn't personally vote for Trump. But I think those things were baked into the cake, as they say. I mean, people knew what he was like. And even with this phone call, you could say there was something that was a problem about it. But from Trump's point of view, he wasn't hiding it. He actually released the transcript. So he thought what he was doing was something that was perfectly acceptable, at least, from his perspective. And that's just the way Trump has been. So if Christians are going to say, we'll allow Trump to be the way he is over here, but then when it comes to this point in time, we're going to say, no, we're not going to allow him to be that way anymore, it's just really inconsistent. I don't see what he's doing now as any different than what he's been doing from the beginning. I just don't. So I don't understand why this is the straw that broke the camel's back. I don't personally see it. And then finally, I just want to comment on the timing of this. And I want to be fair to the writer Mark Galli. I think it's his right to express his views. I think he's probably expressing what a lot of people at the magazine feel, and I understand it. I get the criticisms of the president. And if you feel he should be removed, that's fine. I just think the process has to be fair. But I also would say the timing of this is interesting because from what I've read, Mark Galli is actually leaving Christianity Today at the beginning of 2020. So that's not in any way to disparage him, but it is to point out, just think it's interesting that he's held off writing about this, and then when it's about time for him to leave, he writes this article. Maybe I'm wrong on all this timing, but as I understand it, that is the timing of it. So in the comments, if you have any corrections to make, feel free to do that. But as far as what he says there at the end about evangelical Christianity's reputation and the gospel's reputation, yeah, that resonates a lot with me. And I know there are people out there on the other side that are saying, how could Christians support Trump? That's a whole big issue. But let me just say quickly that even before evangelical Christians supported Trump, they already had a bad reputation on the other side. So I don't know. I guess you could say maybe the reputation is even worse, but in some ways, no matter what evangelical Christians do, just because of their values and the things they care about, some people are going to have a problem with them no matter what. So, man, there's a lot to say there. I really do think a lot of this comes down to issues that evangelical Christians just find to be so important to our country. Take an issue like abortion. And so that adds to the complication of all of this. But I think a lot of Christians do realize it's complicated, and I'd love to hear a discussion in the comments of this video, what your take on all of this is. But I just thought it was interesting. I know there's going to be a lot of hubbub about this article because it's from Christianity Today, so I thought I'd put my thoughts out there. And I know that probably I haven't satisfied anybody with what I've said. I've maybe even angered people. I don't know, but I'd like to just spark that discussion and get us thinking about this. And as Christians, one thing I appreciate about this article is we do need to be thinking about these things. Dr. Brown also wrote an article about how this is a reality check moment for us as Christians because Trump recently made a joke that wasn't very good from a Christian perspective. We'll just put it that way. But, you know, again, this is stuff that's been going on for years now with President Trump. But it is good to be reminded we have to check ourselves. We have to think about, you know, should we support the president no matter what? Are we willing to call him out on things? On the other hand, do we say that this is the time he should be removed from office when really he's just doing the same thing he's been doing? It hasn't been behind closed doors. He's pretty open with how he is. Personally, I always had reservations about Trump, but I understand why people support him, and I don't understand why now anything has changed. That's my view on it. So I'd love to hear what you think, but that's my view from a fresh perspective. Thank you so much for watching.